So basically, they don't even need the link. Right now, in order to see what I'm doing here, they just have to Google Avi Grossman or look for YouTube, the
I
channel.
have no access to them.
Okay. Well, anybody goes on YouTube will see this as long as they're looking
They're
for
not
me.
on the go on either, trying to
Yeah.
go on Zoom. How can I get them? If each one is separate. Jeez. This would usually combine, let's see. No.
Shoot.
And Greenberg. And, what's his name? Who else good? Alfie. Okay.
That's nice. No American flag here. Okay.
What should they do?
If they want to join us, they could look for Avi Grossman on YouTube.
Look at,
Avi Grossman. Just have to Google Avi Grossman, look for my YouTube channel, and they'll see this live. It's already broadcasting there. No need for a code. No need to say ask to join. Just look for us live on YouTube right now.
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. Look for Avi Grossman. I'm live. But any minute, I might get a message from Rabbi Nadel, then we'll go on to the Zoom. But until that happens, is he traveling this morning? If he's traveling this morning, then he's not going to get the message right now. It's a good thing these computer things are so secure, you know. Okay, so let's begin though. I was told we're up to Yud Beis Amid Aleph.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Can you find out if they're watching?
It will show me if people are watching. Currently, no one's watching.
No, they don't know about it yet.
But yes, the second someone starts watching, I get notified of they're
I
on.
just sent out to 5 guys. You go onto YouTube and to search for your name.
You know what? I could even give you a link. Give me an address, an email address in which to send the link, or a WhatsApp. Is this your thing? Here, tell me if do you have WhatsApp right now?
Hmm?
Do you have WhatsApp? Tell me if you got a link for me.
I have one, but the rest of the gang is on.
Okay, but that's the link. You could send that link somehow to people. You could copy that link and send it in Gmails. That's the link to what we're doing right now.
Wait a minute. Oh,
Yeah, you could copy that link. It doesn't have to be through WhatsApp. As long as someone has that link on a computer or any device, they click on it, they'll be joining us live.
I have to send this out. They don't know. You go back to these guys.
Yes. Okay, so they could join. There's no restrictions. This is live on YouTube and anybody. The good news is it's more secure than Zoom because no one can join in and speak on it. They could just watch.
Actually, why doesn't, they make that issue also?
Because for interactive things, everybody uses Zoom. In Zoom, they could raise their hand and ask a question.
You can't do that.
Here, they could type out a question and I could answer it on the chat, but they can't interject their own audio or visual. And this also becomes public. This is a much more public forum. This is the equivalent. If Zoom is being on the phone and talking to your friends on a conference call, then this is going outside in a soapbox and screaming at the top of your lungs. Okay, so I was told we're on Yud Beis Amud Aleph. We have to talk about checking for lice on Shabbos.
Okay.
So,
You're starting to leave Falas, Kayla?
or maybe even before that, right? Rabbi Shmuel, or we have to start Rabbi Shmuel. Tell you the very Rabbi Shmuel. Yotzei Adam B'Tefillin, Erev Shabbos, Simchas Sheikha, right? Yeah.
2 days, wait 1 second till, see if anybody shows up there.
No one yet. So Rabbi Shmuel says a person go out with tefillin Erev Shabbos im chashecha. That doesn't mean as Shabbos is starting, but before Shabbos, he can still wear his tefillin. The problem is not necessarily wearing tefillin on Shabbos. From a non-Kabbalistic approach, there's nothing wrong with wearing tefillin on Shabbos, just not a mitzvah. And that's what we saw earlier. Maybe we discussed this sugya, that if a person discovers tefillin somewhere where they shouldn't be, in a place where harm may come to those tefillin, he's walking outside in Rosh Hashanah. So how does he rescue those tefillin from the elements, or I don't know, from whatever animal or person might come to destroy the tefillin? He's to don those tefillin, wear them in a normal fashion. Machlokas Girsa the Rambam. Should he put them on exactly as he would put them on, Yad first and Shel Rosh afterwards, or do the opposite order, but wear them as he wears his tefillin, like any other garment? Remember, if you wear a shirt like you're wearing a shirt, you're not carrying it on Shabbos anymore. Wear the tefillin and then walk back into Rosh Hashanah with those tefillin. So there's nothing inherently wrong with wearing tefillin on Shabbos. Al Pi Kabbalah there is, which is why we even have this problem that they don't wear tefillin on Chol Moed, and they even don't wear tefillin at certain parts of Rosh Chodesh. There's Rashbi's approach that tefillin are almost an infringement on the sanctity of the day. Hold on, we just got a message.
Somebody got in?
No, it's WhatsApp. Okay, no, it's not relevant to this. Okay, so he could wear his tefillin. The problem, the concern Rabbi Shmuel has is that the person will take off his tefillin as Shabbos is starting. Why? Because we always take off our tefillin anyways as the day comes to an end, right? Everybody wears tefillin all day, like Chazal's time. And as the day comes to an end at Shkia, so we take off our tefillin, we say the bracha lishmor chukav, and then we take off our tefillin, right? That was the Israeli practice. In Bavel, they took off their tefillin earlier, and they didn't say a bracha upon taking it off, but it's explicit a few times in Shas. In Eretz Yisrael, the minhag is to say this bracha. Why people do not say the bracha anymore in Eretz Yisrael is a question, but I've met some Rabbanim who do say this bracha. They wear tefillin all day, and when they take off their tefillin, at the end of the day, they say the bracha, because it's explicit in many sources that here in Eretz Yisrael, you're supposed to say this bracha. So the concern is that if a person wears tefillin late in the day on Erev Shabbos, he'll take off his tefillin and then he'll put them in the tefillin zekel and now start walking around with them in public. And we're assuming that walking around holding something in public is malach on Shabbos. It's hotzah. Now to walk around in the public domain holding anything, carrying. So that was the concern that Rabbi Shmuel had, and he answers Yotzei Adam B'Tefillin B'Erev Shabbos Simchas Sheikha. But he could still do this. We're not worried that he's going to take off his tefillin and carry them around on Shabbos. Yeah.
First we'll go slower, please.
Okay.
So the gzera of what we learned before doesn't apply to tefillin.
Yeah. The Chayat. Anybody have friends there? It's an Ashkenazic name, Chait. Chait means the guy was a tailor, right? So the tailor,
he's not on Zoom. I just sent to you. I'll send you a YouTube link. Okay, I'll get it to you in a minute. On YouTube, yeah. I'll send you a link. I don't know yet. I don't know what's going on. But he couldn't get into Zoom because he's missing some information. Maybe by Tuesday we'll get it from Rabbi Nadel.
No,
we won't.
it's generated by Zoom. Even if he,
Yeah. I'll send
oh,
you.
he's here. Someone's here.
Hi.
No, someone's on YouTube.
Let me set it up.
We have a viewer on YouTube, I mean.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Awesome.
okay. So welcome. We're going to continue with this. So Rabbi Yishmael
Wait,
basically.
wait, 1 second, okay?
Okay. It's amazing, these Gemaras. We now have two people and someone even likes what we're doing. We're pausing temporarily so that others can join us. The idea, oh, we lost someone. The idea is that uh, on Erev Shabbos, those who are prone to carry things should stop carrying those things. They should even check their pockets. Why? Tailors used to carry needles, thread, whatever it is, they're tailoring devices. And I guess the carpenter carries a pencil on this ear and a ruler on that one. So he has to make sure that he checks himself and puts those items down because that's not considered wearing them. If yeah.
The link is asking me to create a YouTube channel, and I don't really know what to do.
No, it's supposed to be no.
Thank you, but the link is asking me to create a YouTube channel.
No, that shouldn't be. Here, try this.
They're all calling.
They should just look for me on YouTube then. Avi
Hello?
Grossman on YouTube.
Yes, sir. It's on YouTube. Do a search in the YouTube for Avi Grossman.
And live on my channel.
See if it works. You want to try it while we're online? Wait a second. Just try it and see if you get through, because we've been having difficulties.
Technical difficulties, sorry.
You don't have YouTube?
No, YouTube's not an application, it's
You don't use YouTube, pretty good. Doing the search for Avi. It's not on Zoom. He has a problem getting.
okay. We have 2 viewers now, so we're doing well.
We'll find out. I don't know yet. We'll find out. Okay. We're having a problem with everybody getting onto this YouTube.
Okay.
Is anybody on yet?
Yeah, we have 2 people.
2 people have gotten in.
2 people have made it. We thank you for your patience. And
Avi Grossman.
that's me, yeah.
1 word, 2 words.
2 words,
2
Avi
words.
Grossman, yeah. And there should be a thing playing on my channel live right now.
Anything there?
Yeah. So click on it.
Safari blog? No.
No. That's the Svarm blog is a website. You just look for YouTube. YouTube. Make YouTube his in the browser, and then from YouTube you search within YouTube.
You have to search in the YouTube.
Within YouTube.
You're in YouTube and you search for Avi, and it comes up as Safari blog.
Mm-hmm. Now he's doing a Google search because the top hit for me on Google search is Svarm blog.
No.
The
There are
YouTube
a lot of
search.
Avi Grossmans, that's the problem.
Look for the Avi Grossman that looks like me.
Look for what?
Look for the one that looks like me.
Looks like you.
Yeah. The bearded one.
No. There's a whole list that comes up.
He has to look for the channel, not for a particular video. The channel, Avi Grossman.
Where do you get a channel? What's a channel?
Oh boy.
We're
Channel-
talking to people,
Yeah.
know.
If I could show them, you should grab
Something like
tell him
that.
to find the young person and ask them how to look for Avi Grossman on YouTube channel.
The search, that's what I would do as well.
Yeah.
You have to find a channel. I don't know how you find the channel.
I'll show you how to do this. As a matter of fact, this will be part of the shear in order for everybody. Look at this. Gentlemen, this is what happens when I go to youtube.com.
Okay.
Okay.
So what do you do at that point?
At YouTube, there's a bar that says search on top.
Yes.
See, you're going to look for this link over
And
here.
we put in Avi Grossman.
Yeah, and Avi Grossman, it's a picture of me. This is a video it gives me because it knows that I would look for this type of content. Your particular YouTube page gives you suggestions of things you might want to see.
Correct.
Yeah. So if you search for Avi Grossman up here,
If you-
within YouTube, see, you get my channel. There's a picture of me,
It's a channel with
Yeah.
a picture of him.
14 years ago in front of some flowers, and there's live. So here's my home page. See, there's different videos from me, including one that's red, says indicated live. See? And 2 people are watching currently. Okay, so we should make progress though. If anybody has a link, they just have to click on this link and they'll get it.
I'm gonna have to leave you and, just try Avi Grossman again in the search, and then it should come up someplace. Okay, and then he's live. All right, bye-bye.
Someone asked me, why haven't I put anything new on the Svarim blog lately? Well, I haven't sat down to write anything, so there's a lot to say, but
Okay.
yeah, okay. So Rabbi Yishmael is
So
basically,
You only have 2 people on?
Yeah.
Who are they?
I don't know,
You don't know.
could very well be my friends. So, but let us continue. Rabbi Yishmael is basically giving a halacha that has to do with the idea that someone should make sure that whatever he's doing Erev Shabbos, he should put it down, and if it's in his pockets, he should not have it in his pockets. Nowadays, most gentlemen carry a wallet in their pockets. Used to be only if you had money around did you carry a money belt, but nowadays we all have pants pockets. And I'm pretty confident that most men carry some form of key, at least, and a wallet in their pockets. So that would be the equivalent. Make sure you don't have those in your pockets when Shabbos is coming in. And many of us live in a place where they have a so-called eruv, where somehow we've gotten around this problem of carrying them in the public. So many of us specifically do have our keys and our handkerchiefs or whatever in our pockets, even as Shabbos starts. So Rabbi Yishmael was saying, tefillin is not a problem. If a person was wearing his tefillin like normal on Erev Shabbos, he doesn't have to take them off before he leaves his house, even if he ends up going to shul. It's Kabbalah Shabbos, he has his tefillin on, so we're not worried he is going to take them off. My timer, Kevon, why? The Amar Rabba Bar Rav Huna, Chayav Adam Lashmesh B'Tefillin Kol Sha'ah V'Sha'ah. The person's always going to make sure he has his tefillin. He's not going to forget about them as Shabbos starts. Tefillin are supposed to be touched all the time. How do we know that? Kal v'chomer mitzitz. Kal v'chomer from the tzitz. What does it say about the tzitz? The Kohen Gadol's half crown. It says, Ma tzitz she'en bo ela az karachaf. The tzitz only has God's name written on it once. Kodesh Lashem. Amra Torah vayal mitzcho tamid. It says it should be on his forehead constantly. And it's a little bit redundant there. Vayal metzach aron, vayal mitzcho tamid. It should be on his forehead, and it should be on his forehead constantly. So what's the whole constancy thing teach us? Shelo yasiach da'ato mimenu, that he should not take his mind off of it, ever. Kohen Gadol has to always keep his mind on it, so I guess he's always touching it. And it says, Tefillin, sheish ben raz karot harbe, alachat kama v'chama. Tefillin, which have God's name on them many times. How much more so should a person be touching them constantly and be aware of the tefillin? He's not going to forget about them. Now, with regards to the tzitz, basically, it seems he's saying that he's touching it. The tefillin, where do we see God's name on them? Well, they're on the inside. You don't see it written across. The tefillin don't have God's name right there, but we know they're written on the parchments on the inside, and that's, by the way, their sanctity. Well,
you didn't have 26 times the scholars.
Yeah.
And there's no room on the tzitz to put.
Yeah, that's why the tzitz is of inferior holiness. If somehow the tzitz, remember, some say that Urim v'Tumim was what? A parchment with God's name on it, enclosed in the ephod, right? Behind the choshen. So if you could do that, maybe God would have wanted that the tzitz should have his name written many times on a parchment folded up against the backside of the tzitz somehow. You can imagine that if God wants his name to appear on something, it would appear there. But this comes to teach us that even the Kohen Gadol, you think he's the holiest person. Yes, he is the holiest person. But his crown is less holy than tefillin. Isn't that amazing? Less holy, yeah. His crown is less holy. Rabbi Soloveitchik has a whole thing.
have a greater kedusha than the tzitz.
Well, I'm telling you that Rabbi Soloveitchik said that. Here it just says that it has azkarot. The person won't keep his mind off it because it has such great importance. God's name is written on it so many times, he's not going to take his mind off of it. The tzitz says but once, so we Kohen Gadol don't take his mind off of it. Kal v'chomer tefillin, which has God's name many times, 26 times. So, of course, he won't take his name off it. Rabbi Soloveitchik wanted to say that the sanctity of Stam, Sefer Torah, Tefillin, Mezuzahs, generates from what? The Azkarot, all the holy names written thereon. So a Sefer Torah is full of God's name, all over the place. Tefillin less, because Tefillin only have sections from the Sefer Torah. Tefillin, Mezuzah even less, because Mezuzah has even less sections. And the holiness, I guess if you had two Sefer Torah, it's twice as holy as one Sefer Torah. Let us continue here.
Excuse me, this
Yeah.
limud is not really, to me, valid.
Yeah.
Because the pasuk, you have a pasuk by its seats. And the pasuk has Amitzro Tomid is repeated twice in the pasuk.
Oh. No, it says
And then-
Vayal Metzach Aaron, Vayal Mitzchot Tamid. Two different phrases that are very similar.
Two different phrases. One phrase talks about the placement, the first part on Mitzcho. The second one talks about Mitzcho Tamid. The Tamid is teaching us Lo Yasir Dato.
Yeah.
So you have a specific pasuk about Yasir Dato referring to its seats.
Yeah.
And we want to say that how do you learn that Kal Vachomer to Tefillin? There's a specific pasuk by tzitz. There's no pasuk by tefillin. Just because tefillin happens to have Shem Hashem a number of times, why does that teach you lo yasiyah? Tommy,
So
it has to be constant.
So we're
How
gonna
can that be?
the Rashbam answers that question sort of.
Who?
Rashbam.
And the answer
So
would be
Rashbam says that you and I have a rabbinic tradition that the psukim, which are actually a few times in the Torah, about tying it to your arm and placing it between your eyes. Between your eyes, by the way, is an expression for this part of the head. That means, according to rabbinic tradition, that one is supposed to put actual boxes which have parchments inside of them on these parts of the body. But as the Rashbam points out, in biblical idiom, it means the expression "never forget these things." It's as though you have it tied to your arm. Put it as though it is tied to you and as though it's between your eyes. Matter of fact, the Karaites actually took this literally. The Sadducees put Bnei Necha, literally, they put their tefillin over here. The Sadducees are no longer around, but the Karaites, until today, hold too literally like the Rashbam. Then they say that's all it means. You'd have to remember the Torah, and the Karaites have no such thing as tefillin. But the Rashbam says they're partially right, because pshat is that you should always have your mind on it. You're never allowed to have a hesech hadas on tefillin, which we know that's halacha. Can't take your mind off the tefillin. So once tefillin has a limud of hesech hadas also, we realize, this has the tzitz has hesech hadas problem, and tefillin, at least the shel rosh, do too, because we're talking about tefillin shel rosh. So, and now the tefillin, we say they have more azkaras, so a person is even more mindful of those than, let's say, the Kohen Gadol is of the tzitz.
so that's the answer why you shouldn't. You're permitted to go out on
Erev Shabbos.
Shabbos
Yeah.
against the example we had before.
Yes. So if you're, I don't know how many of you gentlemen, there are people. Yeshivat Kotel is here on Shabbos, right? Normally, what's their shtick? They have a whole get together at a certain amount of time before Shabbos comes in, and they march down to the Kotel together, right? For Kabbalah Shabbos. So I don't know how many people here go to the Kotel every Kabbalah Shabbos. That was like a big thing. At least when I was young, it was like, oh, Kotel, Kabbalah Shabbos. So you could start walking. Let's say you would leave Beit Knesset on a sea at 4:00 in the afternoon, Erev Shabbos. So technically speaking, at that point, you could wear your tefillin unless you're already taking in Shabbos. So 3:30 in the afternoon, whereas you tell the tailor, make sure that your pockets are empty when you leave the house, when you're going. If you would depart from the synagogue here at 3:30 in the afternoon on Friday, so you can still wear your tefillin. You still have a while to go until you have to take them off.
It's to put on tefillin on Shabbos.
Yes.
What would be the issue to carry that?
If we didn't have an eruv, the issue of carrying them would be skila. It's a malacha. Carrying anything on Shabbos is usher. And most people would take their tefillin off. Once you take off your tefillin, you're carrying them instead of wearing them. The second you cross that line from wearing to carrying, you have a Shabbos problem.
Who says
You
it's
wear
good?
a hat on Shabbos.
Yeah. No, I don't.
What would be the turn on Shabbos with a hat?
To be
Because
honest,
you took them off.
yeah. Once you
Because
take it
took
off,
them off.
if
If you wore them,
Yeah.
there's no problem.
really,
But you took it off and you put it back in the filling zekel.
our
That's
yarmulkes
the
are good.
problem.
Yeah.
And the hat, you wear Shabbos, you wear a hat.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Because you're wearing it. Filling, you were wearing it, but you took them off.
if the custom were, let's say practice was that people would take off their hats in public occasionally, just like you're walking with a hat and then just at a certain point you hold it in your hand, then that would be a problem. You couldn't wear those types of things on Shabbos if there was no Eruv. Luckily, it is not the style that someone's walking around with a yarmulke, even indoors. No one takes off his yarmulke periodically just to inspect his yarmulke or in order to shake someone's hand. Hold your yarmulke in your left hand, shake the hand with the right hand. We don't take off our yarmulkes, just like we don't take off our shirts. So there is no concern that a person is going to turn his malbush into a masoy. A masoy is something that he's carrying now. But indeed, tefillin do. The problem is that sometimes we do take off our tefillin. It's a regular thing. There's a certain part of the day, we call it sundown, where everybody who's wearing tefillin suddenly does what? They take off their tefillin. But hats and shirts and things like that, we don't just say, "Ooh, 4:30, take off the hat," or 4:30, take off the jacket. It doesn't happen. Let's move on here. I hope that answers the what.
We're gonna learn that with Shemiyata, right? We're gonna learn that there's a low plug. Why isn't there a low plug here?
Low plug, which I think you're discussing, is talking about different types of people. It talks about, like the rich man, the difference between the important person, the non-important person.
No,
Yeah? Then which
there was a low plug about even if the lamp
Oh, yeah, okay.
is up high.
Yeah, no
and I
plug
can't
with
reach
lamps.
it,
No plug with lamps. No
why?
plug with lamps.
I can understand that fully.
Because
Why
everybody's
do we have
human.
a low plug by tefillin?
Low plug for tefillin, because once you have tefillin, people wear their tefillin. You can continue wearing your tefillin on Shabbos. You're mindful of your tefillin. People really, tefillin is the highest standard of mindfulness of something. That's what Chazal are teaching us.
Okay.
And you don't even have to, technically speaking, take off your tefillin and the day comes to an end.
Agreed.
So you're wearing them. So because people are mindful of tefillin, the tefillin are unlike the pencil and the sewing needle that people have on them, that they had on them all Erev Shabbos, now have to make sure to put away before Shabbos. That's all. Chazal felt the importance of the mitzvah. I am not commanded, by the way, despite the fact that I have to use a computer for all the things I do, I'm not commanded to have a computer. But I am commanded to have tefillin. And tzitzis, by the way, also. So those things, Chazal did not make a gzera on. Let's read this here. What about yarmulke? We always wear yarmulkes, so also that's not a problem. It says, Hilkach midkar dachir lehu. Therefore, he will remember them. Certainly remember them. Tanya, Chananya Omer, Chayav Adam l'mashmesh b'vigdo erev Shabbat im chashecha. Amar Rav Yosef, Hilchsa Rabasi l'Shabbos. Yeah, you have to make sure, give yourself a pat down. Make sure you have nothing in your garments.
Everybody's telling me they can't get into your
There are 3 people here already. So as long as they click on that link, they should get it.
It doesn't. Elkanon tells me it isn't, and
Really? It's very strange. I click on the link and I get double the video because now I'm watching myself. Yeah, hold on. I'll set here. I'll give you an alternate link. Okay, watch
No,
this.
no, don't complicate it.
No. It's very simple. Just anybody who clicks on this should be able to get in. Sometimes the link expires. Here, try this. If they couldn't get into that, tell them to try this. Okay. Try that new link. Really, if anybody's on WhatsApp or anything, click on this link and it will work. The new link. Oy, got to catch up on all these things. You know that news is happening every day. Let us see. Then 2 dots. Ibailahu. So they ask a question concerning what it says in the Mishnah. What does the Mishnah say? A person shouldn't be grooming his hair. In the olden days, what did they do? Lice was a fact of life. And unfortunately, they didn't realize that there were lice eggs. what nowadays, here in this country at least, women have to check their children for lice. So they have to comb out the lice. Lice look like little bugs, and women are taught to kill them with their fingernails, squish them between the fingernails. But also they have actual eggs. They now know where to find the lice eggs, which were something, as we'll see in the ensuing sugya, Chazal didn't realize there were actually those things were actually eggs because they just look like dust. We use microscopes now. We realize, oh, these are the eggs of those lice. By fully removing the lice and their eggs, you could delouse a person permanently. But in the olden days, they used to take out lice, and then because there were eggs there, by the next week you'd have to delouse the person again. And that was something, like I said, a fact of life. So everybody was delousing something at a certain point. And one of the biggest solutions they came up with for delousing, let's say, a human being, a man, was to do what? Just shave his head entirely or cut his hair really short. And indeed, many people did that, including Jewish people. Men don't need hair. You don't need to look good. And lice, for some reason, don't go in the beard as much. So a man has a beard, basically makes his hair super short so there's no place for lice to hide. And like the Rambam says, he washes his head, with the hottest water he can stand. Right? You guys seen the Rambam's recommendations of how to bathe, about different temperature water. In order to keep that clean, you do that. The Mishnah says, Lo yitzeh chayat, we saw that. And then it says, V'lo yifaleh kelov, v'lo yikra le'or haner. He shouldn't check his garments for lice, and he should not read by candlelight. So we're going to ask a question about what these phrases mean. When it says Yibailuhu, lo yifaleh et kelau bayom. What?
Speak more slowly.
Sorry. We have 4 people with us, by the way, on YouTube. The question was, lo yifaleh et kelav bayom. Okay. Should he not check his garments even during the day? When it says that line, v'lo yikra le'or haner, is le'or haner part of the distributive property? Does it refer or modify the 2 previous phrases? Because after one phrase, does it also modify the phrase before that? Lo yifaleh kelav le'or haner. So, or as we say in Yiddish, going on. So they asked that question. Lo yifaleh kelav bayom, shema yarog, v'Rabbi Eliezer he. If you read this statement of not checking for lice, his clothing for lice, as being detached from the next statement, which says don't read by candlelight, so it means he shouldn't check his garments for lice, period. And who would say such a thing like that? Rabbi Eliezer, because Rabbi Eliezer felt that killing a louse is a malacha on Shabbos. Where do we know that from? It says in the Brisa, Amar Rabbi Eliezer, HaHoreg kina b'Shabbat kilu horeg gamal. Rabbi Eliezer says a person kills a louse on Shabbos is as though he killed the largest behemoth they had at the time, which was a camel. Camel is the largest behemoth known to our ancestors that people actually had and could reasonably have a chance to kill. What about elephants? Those are even larger behemoths that Chazal knew about. Yeah, you can't really kill an elephant. Just try, okay? You're not going to succeed. So he felt this in distinction to what? Old other sages who believe that killing lice on Shabbos was permissible. Wow, they actually felt it's permissible. Yeah, but Rabbi Eliezer says one standard: you can't kill anything that's alive. A little bit of difficult. I'm going to give you what I believe is my opinion. If it's worth, I don't know. What? Well, there's no such thing as malacha on Shabbos in the Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash has a commandment: slaughter the lamb, burn the ketores, etc. That is not Shabbos. The Kohen himself cannot slaughter his own food when he goes home. But Am Yisrael has a commandment to offer the sacrifice every day on Shabbos. We ignore Shabbos. There's no such thing as Shabbos in the Beis Hamikdash.
So
Well, yes, there is, yeah. Oh, yeah, there's a Musaf. I'm sorry. Yeah, you have to do it twice. You have to do it twice as much.
there are certain things that are permissible to do to bring korbanos.
Yeah.
They couldn't write.
Well, I'm not talking about that. There's no writing as part of the service of the temple.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the point. Don't say everything is
No.
permissible in the mikdash. Things are permitted.
No, I didn't
only
say that.
to bring a
I said
korban.
there's no Shabbos in the Mikdash. Yeah. So that's the expression. Yeah.
Well,
God.
Shavuos,
No,
the
not
mikdash.
Shavuos would be a rabbinic enactment. I'm talking about.
Correct. You're telling me there's no Shabbos in the
Yeah, I'm trying to say that. If a Kohen were to say, yeah, but I want to write a letter,
You're not allowed to make kiddush in the mikdash. They don't make kiddush in the mikdash.
I think the Kohanim do, but that's not Shabbos. Shabbos means desisting from malacha, and the Kohanim are not supposed to say, oh, this is part of our service and it's malacha, therefore we will not do it on Shabbos. If it's not part of the service, then that's not what God commanded at all. A Kohen who takes out a pen.
Don't use the terminology that there's no Shabbos.
No, yeah.
There is a Shabbos in the Mikdash,
Yeah.
but there's a requirement to bring korbanos. The things that have to do with korbanos, they don't, Shabbos doesn't apply to them.
What I'm
Don't
saying
make a
is,
general
no,
statement.
I'm making a general statement that I'm quoting from Rishonim who felt this way, that it means when they use that term, that's why I was smiling. When they use this term, it means that for everything that's in the Beis Hamikdash, because it's supposed to be in the Beis Hamikdash, there is no Shabbos there. If a Kohen were to take out a pen and a paper and start writing a letter in the Beis Hamikdash, he's not doing right. He's doing wrong. That's not meant to be in the Beis Hamikdash at all. That's not in the Beis Hamikdash. He's almost, it's not active me'ilah, but he's trespassing where he shouldn't be. Everything that the Kohanim do on Shabbos, they is what they do on the weekday. Everything they do on the weekdays on Shabbos, except on Shabbos they do double. Yeah, Shabbos they do double.
I'm
So
just questioning your terminology.
Yeah.
Using, if I take what you're saying to be true,
Yeah,
then I'm permitted, I don't have to make Kiddush on Shabbos,
no,
and I can write on Shabbos, because there is no Shabbos in the Mikdash.
that's not what I
It's
meant.
Tuesday afternoon.
That's not what I meant.
Of course it's not what
I
you
know,
meant.
but I'm just trying
So
to
I'm
say this
asking
from.
you to be more specific in your language, that
So-
don't say it's no Shabbos. Of course there's Shabbos, but
No. That's
There's a big Abner
Yeah.
Why the difference between Korbanos and Shabbos? Why they're not considered?
I understand that,
Not
but then,
considered Yisrael, and why in the base of leaders you can. The big Abner I'm talking about learning something 50 years ago.
my point is that's just how we say it. There's a lot of Talmudic and rabbinic expressions that if we take them too literally, don't know what's behind them, then we'll mislead ourselves. So what the point is that the Kohanim, when they do their job as Kohanim and what the Torah commands, there is no issue. So the question was, can you kill animals on Shabbos? If you want to kill a camel, or I don't know whatever's bothering you, you cannot kill on Shabbos. However, the Kohanim kill animals on Shabbos, like they make a joke. The Kohen Gadol does all sorts of things on Yom Kippur. He slaughters animals and he burns ketores. He washes off. He does.
because the Torah commands us to do that.
The Torah commands him to do that, and we don't even take into question. Yeah, but it is Shabbos.
Because the Torah commands us to do that.
No. It said the Torah didn't even say that this is Shabbos. He says Shabbos lochem. With regards to doing these mitzvahs, we do not consider Shabbos as long as we're doing what is supposed to be done in the Beis Hamikdash. Shabbos is not a factor. That's what they meant. If a Kohen were to choose to start to write, that's not, now he's doing what he's not supposed to be doing. His job isn't to sit there and write letters. He's not even allowed to sit down technically. So that's what we mean by this. Now, I heard everybody discussing. So what about? I don't like using the word science. Science just means that we've discovered facts, and the fact is that the Rambam brings 3 levels of what you can kill on Shabbos. Have you seen it inside the Rambam? This is also the Shulchan Aruch quotes the Rambam. Paskins like the Rambam. Here's how it goes. There is that which is fully alive, and they consider it to be sexually reproducing. If you're an animal, you sexually reproduce. Those are camels, squirrels, cats, dogs, pigeons, everything under the sun. Therefore, one who kills them on Shabbos is liable to skila. Okay? It's an asur and chayav. They use the word chayav because, of course, it's asur. The only question is, are we going to hold you liable for doing such a thing? And then there are those things that he says have a different form of breeding. They come out of rot. In the first category, by the way, we have things that come out of the ground. That is, they assumed that, let's say, flies, normal horse flies and house flies, come out of the ground. And that's sort of true. Where do flies come from and other bugs? During the warm season, the eggs are laid in the upper layer of the topsoil. And then when it warms up, the eggs hatch out of the soil. So that's what looks like bugs just come out of the soil. And even though they were unaware of their sexual reproduction, Chazal said that these things are also, one who kills them is chayav on Shabbat. Fine. But then they said that there's certain things that come out of rotten fruit and from fecal matter, let's say fruit flies and other types of bugs, where we know now they also sexually reproduce. The eggs were put there beforehand. Things that come out of rotten stuff, that's pater avol aser. One who kills such a fly, a fruit fly, for example. Where do fruit flies come from? rotten fruit. That's their place of breeding. That's where the eggs are laid. So Chazal would say killing a fruit fly is a pater aval aser. You should not have killed that fruit fly, but no one will be taking you to Beis Din for stoning if you had done such a thing. And then there's the third level, which is lice. They say lice comes out of sweat. Things that come out of just liquids, they spontaneously generate from liquids. Once again, Chazal were unaware of their sexual reproduction, that there's eggs actually in the sweat or on the scalp, and fleas on the dog come out the same way. So killing those types of things is actually permissible. We're going to see that to the Gemara's conclusion also elsewhere in Shabbos. I think that was Daf Kuf Yud Gimel, if I'm not mistaken. So those are permissible. Now, someone wants to say, and many want to say this, now that we know that everything actually sexually produces, then we really have no way around this. We should not be killing any of these things. I remember I was studying biology in college. They said I was good at this. And one of the things that we discovered was we have microscopes, and we now know how everything reproduces because we could see them. The problem with, let's say, adjusting the psak, because now we know things were sexually reproduce, is that you should know it's not just lice that sexually reproduce. There are even amoebas that occasionally do that. What's an amoeba? An amoeba is a microorganism. Amoebas, you only know they exist because of microscopes. Amoebas are much smaller. Amoebas can be carried by the lice themselves. A human is to a louse as an amoeba, I'm talking about in size, in proportion and size, as an amoeba is to a bacterium. Now, there are very few bacterium that actually reproduce the way we're talking about, but there is a spectrum of size that God made these organisms, and there is no line where we finally say that these small creatures do not sexually reproduce. If we were to therefore say that can't kill lice because they sexually reproduce, then you'll have to say then you can't kill the things that are slightly smaller than the lice and the things that are slightly smaller than that. And just know there are thousands of different organisms that are just a drop smaller than them and just a drop smaller than them. And if you would say that, then you can't pour you can't pour hot water into your cup on Shabbos. Why? Because there are microorganisms in that cup that you were thereby killing by pouring the hot water there. When you put a little bit of salt on food, you are killing some microorganisms on that surface. You're killing microorganisms that technically sexually produce. So if you are going to say that the lines have to be redrawn, please give a good example where you are going to draw that line. And the problem is you can't. So like Rav Herzog said, we're just going to stick with the lines that Chazal drew because we don't have any other standard on which to go nowadays. Does that make sense? So that's why we're not, yes, if you don't want to kill lice on Shabbos, you don't have to. But we can't look down on those people who are still following the original psak. And technically speaking, by the way, mosquitoes fall into the category of lice. Why? Because mosquitoes where do they come from? This is very interesting. They don't come from the ground. They don't come from rotten fruit. They come from tepid, fetid water that stood, like sweat. And mosquitoes, even though you and I can see a mosquito, if you were to catch a mosquito, you could actually see its legs and arms and everything. You could see its face. Mosquitoes are quite large, much larger than bacteria, but the way they start, you can only see their eggs with an electron microscope. That's how small their eggs are. It's amazing. They're laid on the surface of the water, and they go through an amazing process why they grow. So even if you would see someone kill a mosquito on Shabbos because it's bothering him, to just know he has the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch on which to rely, because that was the original psak and how they originally felt that way. So Rabbi Eliezer says here that he's the one they ask in the Mishnah when it says don't check for lice, because checking for lice usually involves killing of the lice. Is that Rabbi Eliezer's opinion? And it also, the Mishnah also says that one should not check, one should not read by candlelight on Shabbos. O dilma travayu shema yateh. Or is it that when the Mishnah said, and don't check for lice, it meant by candlelight? And technically speaking, if you check for lice during the day, and you kill those lice, that's what you like to do on your Shabbos. Tashma, ein folin ve'ein kori'in lo'or haner. There's a brisa that says slightly different language than the Mishnah. Instead of in the PL, it says in the Pa'al form, ein folin, don't check for lice, and don't read by candlelight. And the Gemara rejects this, saying, Mi alima mi masnisin. This brisa is just as ambiguous as the Mishnah. It's not any stronger than the Mishnah, because I could still read it. I could read it as two separate phrases. Ein folin, we don't check for lice. Vein korin lo haner, and we don't read by candlelight. And there's no reason to say that this modification or haner also modifies the first phrase. And so the Tosfos asks, so what was the Havamina? Why did they even bring this? It says Mialima. And it says here, the one who suggested this, the Vraisa Darka Lefarish Tfei Mimas Nisan. He thought maybe this Brisa is a little bit more explicit than the Mishnah. In what way? It's almost very similar to the Mishnah. The Od, the Vraisa Katani, Ein Polin Vein Korin, Mashma Tfei, the Kaila or Haner Atravaihu, the Mas Nisan. The Katani Lo Yafal as Kalov. The fact that they left out the word Kalov, and now the two verbs are in the same tense and the same construct. So it sounds like Ein Folim Vein Korin, Lo Haner. It's easier to read it as one. That was the Havamina. And Kamash Milan, no, it's still just as ambiguous as the Mishnah. Still stuck. Tashma, Ein Polin Lo Haner. Vein korin or haner. Oh, pretty expensive. Don't check for lice by candlelight, and do not read your books by candlelight. Notice Chananya here is different than the Chananya a few lines up. This Chananya is spelled in Hebrew with a hey, and the previous Chananya was with an aleph. Okay. What do you say? Ben Chizkiah ben Garon. They got together in his attic and they decided all these halachas. Shbamina. So that is a conclusive proof. It seems that this Mishnah means that one should not check for lice by candlelight, implying one can check for lice during the day, and we hold that that one could kill technically lice on Shabbos, and unlike Rabbi Eliezer. The Travayu Shema Yate Shmamina. Both phrases in the Mishnah mean by candlelight, not the other way around. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Afilu havchin bein bigdo levigdei ishto. You know what else you can't do? You can't even check whose garment is. You walk into the closet on Shabbos, and they didn't have electric lights. There's some lights on where they're eating, some candles going. He would have to start bringing these garments out of the closet into where the candle is in order to check, is this a woman's coat or a man's coat? I mean, remember, they didn't have such a variety of clothing like we do nowadays. What would be the problem? Well, you're not allowed to wear a woman's coat. Okay. Amar Rava, lo amaran ella divnei mechoza, aval divnei chaklita meda yadi. Yeah, when it says which garments he might have to check to determine them, it's bnei mechoza, where their garments were very similar. But if you live in a place like chaklita, there's a big difference between their types of clothing. I would imagine that in a colder environment, the clothes were more similar to each other. Most of us know the difference between a man's raincoat and a woman's coat, right? You have your trench coat. Woman has a fancier looking coat. But what were coats in the olden days? What was a winter coat or a raincoat around here? If you lived in Eretz Yisrael 2,000 years ago and you wanted to wear a coat in December, what was your coat made out of? What they used to make coats out of? No, they couldn't have made of wool. If you want it to be rainproof, you're assuming it's the rainy season, you make a wool coat, then it's not going to be of much help. So what they used to make it out of? A hide. You took a large animal hide and made yourself a leather coat. So a leather hide, yeah, so in order to make it if it's an adult-sized coat, it's a very hard thing to know. Is it a woman's leather hide coat or a man's leather hide coat, or was there even such a distinction? It's mentioned that one of the Chachamim had a chaluk he shared with his wife. They were so poor. Some things were basically, before European styles, some things were basically both. Right? It could have passed for both. So it depends on where you are, basically, the society and what their clothing looks like. And then he modifies this even more. Meida yadi. And even we're talking about the mechoza, where the clothing was similar enough that you had to maybe check by candlelight to see which one you're talking about. We only said this, Ella diz kinot aval diladot meida yadi. Telling the older women wear certain types of clothing. The younger women wear different types, not the same style. Okay, this is something with which we aren't familiar because obviously our styles are much different. I hope even some men have a different closet than their wives, so they know not to. You're not going to find your wife's clothing in your own closet. Tanu Rabbanan, ein polin b'reshut harabim mipnei hakavod. One should not check for lice in reshus harabim out of respect. That means respect for human dignity. It's undignified to do such a thing. It's kind of repulsive to others. Kayotzebo Amar, what does it say here? Rabbi Yehuda, not Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Nechemia. Ein osin apik twizin b'reshut harabim mipnei hakavod. We shouldn't administer emetics in the public domain, because also that's disrespectful. Why would people take emetics on Shabbos? Or not on Shabbos, just stop. Why are people taking these things? It induces vomiting. Sometimes, whatever, they felt that this was just like they used to have, they used to believe that it's good to empty one's bowels at certain points and to bloodlet. So too, they thought that encouraging vomiting things that weren't healthy was a medicinal practice. And they say, but just don't do this in public. This is not the type of thing. What, there's someone says,
About Shabbos, I guess.
no, it's not. It's just Rishus Rabim Mipnei Hakavod. I heard there's other places in the world where people are a lot less dignified. They answer the call of nature, even in the Rishus Rabim, in way too many places. And thank God we live in nice, clean places where people don't do those types of things. But you can imagine before, the modern times, this is something that, it was much harder to avoid. So that's why Chazal are telling us these are things that people should not be doing in public. The Rambam, when he came to Egypt, had to really crack down on people's unsanitary practices. It says the Karaites especially, which if we mention them again, they had, not only they were not keeping halacha, they were also not as clean. Jews washed their hands and things like that. So you have to teach people. If you want to avoid the plagues, you have to keep the basic sanitary conditions. Tanu Rabbanon, Hamafalek Kenav Molel V'Zorek. But
The Romans, people with a certain economic status.
yeah, they would gorge themselves and then,
Further continue their survey.
yeah. So I didn't mention that because we're talking about good Jews here. Good Jews did not engage in the bacchanal. It was also, it involved some idol worship. Aside from the disgustingness of gluttony, it was also connected to the worship of the god Bacchus, right? So that's not something you want to do. I don't think that's what Chazal were addressing. Although they did this, the Romans did come up with all sorts of ways to get people to vomit on command. So, or whenever they wanted to. So this is something that they knew about. Okay. So a person, it says here that one who is checking for lice can rub it between his fingers like this and just throw them away, but he should make sure that he doesn't kill the bug. Basically, really hurting the bug. Okay, just don't kill it. This opinion feels that you could molel the bug and throw it. Maybe he's crippled, but he's not going to be walking anytime soon. Like the kugaracha, it hurts his legs if you do that to him, so he's not going to get
This is
anywhere.
talking now on Shabbos.
Yes, talking about on Shabbos. And Abba Shaul says, how do I know he's talking about on Shabbos, by the way? Because Rashi says, B'Shabbos. Okay, we're going with Rashi. Rashi says, B'Shabbos molel la'achish kochan shaliach zurilav. Okay, you hurt the bug, so he's not going to come back. By the way, hurting it, when you do that to bugs, you're actually breaking their legs. Okay? Bugs who break their legs don't get far. Just like if you take off the wings from a fly or a mosquito, it's not going to be flying around anytime soon. And Rashi says, Uvad shelo yimlol b'dochak v'yarog. Don't press it too hard because then it'll just kill the guy. And that's what's forbidden on Shabbos. The Sfirale harigas kina shavus. He holds that killing the mosquito is a shvus. Why did Rashi have to say this? Because if killing the mosquito was an actual malacha, so I shouldn't be allowed to do this thing and I'm just hurting the mosquito. Why? Because that should be forbidden, lest one come to kill it. No, the killing of the mosquito already is a rabbinic enactment. So doing something that will not kill the mosquito, the louse, is permissible. A shvus to shvus. Where the Rashi is assuming shvus to shvus is permissible. Whose opinion is this? The Abba Shaul Rabbi Eliezer u'mechayev chatlas hilkach gazrinon melila shelo yarog. So Abba Shaul says, we're about to read. What does Rabbi Shaul say? Abba Shaul says, no tel v'zorek vad shelo yimlo. Abba Shaul says, no, because the killing of this louse is actually a malacha, you can take out the mosquito, the louse, and throw him away, but you can't do anything to harm the louse. You can't molel him a little bit so that he's injured. I wonder if a person would do this to the louse, when isn't a psik ratio, he's going to die anyways eventually from that? Apparently the louse could survive a significant amount of time in this crippled state. It's not going to make him live any less longer. Why is that? I don't get it. The louse in my hair, if there was such a thing, I took it out. Now he's going to live just as long as now that he's on the ground. Technically speaking, yes, because the louse has a very short life anyways. These bugs, they live just long enough to grow to adulthood, reproduce, lay their eggs, and then they're gone. They die shortly thereafter, especially the males. They don't live long, and the females, they have nothing to do with their young anyways. So they live through a generation in a matter of days. Okay, so they don't have really that long life expectancy. What was it? Fruit flies can go through how many generations in a few days? forget, there was like, something we used to do in lab. Okay. So that's what Abba Shaul says. So we have this first opinion, which is in between opinion. Killing the louse is Isser Darabanan, but a person could roll them up like that. And Abba Shaul says a person can't even do that because killing the louse would be an Chiyuv Deraisa. Amar Rav Huna, halacha. Rav Huna says, halacha, molel v'zorek v'zeo kvodo v'afilu b'chol. Really, the way to deal with lice is to molel v'zorek, roll them up and throw them out, even on a weekday. No real difference. You check your hair on Shabbos like you do during the week. And that's the proper thing to do. It's why is that kvodo? In what sense is this respectful of it? Because you're getting rid of lice. It's human dignity that people should live, free of parasites. So that's a good thing. Rabba mikateluhu. So Rabba would kill the lice, apparently on Shabbos. Killing that's also likatel. I mean, something that's to cut off, even, and it's related to the shoresh kuf tet lamed, which in Aramaic and Arabic also means to kill. And Rav Sheshes mikateluhu, he would do the same way. He would also kill them. Rava shadiluhu lakana demaya. Rava would throw them into a bucket of water. Why do you throw them into a bucket of water? So it's apparently indirectly killing them. Okay, he couldn't stand to actually kill them. Omar lahu Rav Nachman livnate. Rav Nachman told his daughters, what do you say here? Katolin vashmili kala desan wathay. Says, kill them, and let me hear the sound of what's san wathay. So I was surprised by this. I thought it meant something, and it turns out that's what Sansino says it is. I checked. What is it? Steinzel says it's the lice combs, but lice combs don't make that much noise. Lice combs. What does Art School translate this as? San wathay is the lice comb. So I want to hear the sound of a lice comb. What sound does a lice comb make? I don't know. You can't hear the sound of someone combing his hair, but apparently the click of killing the bug against the lice comb, I don't know. It's not that loud. Sansino said, and I like this opinion better, just because this reminds me of what I was doing in my own house. Says, let me hear the sound of san wathay means the bad guys. San wathay means my enemies. Okay, he was basically saying, yes, these lice are my enemies, and he was, I guess, jokingly telling his daughters he relishes the fact that they're killing so many lice. It's like I did this. My daughters didn't like this, but they're being bothered by a mosquito during the summer, so I found in their room with a flashlight, there's 2 mosquitoes on the wall, and I smashed them against the wall. And I said, Kain yovedu cholo yavecha Hashem. So may all your enemies, O Lord, go lost. It's from the Song of Deborah. It's the conclusion of her song. So apparently, this Amora felt the same way. It says, killing the lice, the simon, that's what we should do to all of our enemies. Bimhir of Yaminu. We celebrate Hanukkah. Isn't that what Yehuda Maccabee did to our enemies and God's enemies also? Should we go over time because we're a little bit late, or it's at 11 already?
Anything that cannot be perceived by the human senses is allowed to be considered non-existent, right?
At least with it, yeah, like bugs, like germs. If we,
it was a big thing with strawberries a while back, with
the thrips.
They made a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
The little bugs there.
Should just know everything that comes from nature. If it's a fruit, it probably has some sort of microscopic bug egg or germs on it. So you have to live your life. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't tell us to avoid these things. Chazal even said, if, let's say, there was what they call worms, what Chazal call worms, are called worms because they don't have legs. Really, when you open up these fruits and you find things that look like worms, what you're really looking at is larvae of bugs that will eventually grow segmented and have legs and arms and wings, possibly, and everything. But they look like worms in this larval state. Maggots are a good example. Maggots grow into flies, but they look like worms at the beginning. And maggots grow in food if it's rancid food. So what happens is that if the egg is laid on the fruit while it's still, let's say, in the flower stage, eventually the whole apple, as an example, will grow, and this egg will be within the flesh of the apple, and then the egg will hatch, and you'll have this worm, the larva of this animal, growing in the apple. Halachically speaking, as long as that larva has not left its place of generation where it hatched, it's still considered part of the apple and halachically edible. No isser. Same thing with these types of parasites that grow in the flesh of certain animals and fish. because they were laid there, the Anisakis worm within the salmon, because they were laid in there from the beginning, it's like they were always part of it, and they are only considered forbidden once they leave their place. Because I'll say it's the same din as blood. Technically speaking, you can eat meat tartar if you don't grind it. You washed it and you cleaned it, and now it's a whole piece of meat, and you just put it in your mouth and eat it. There is blood in there, but because you're not cooking this meat and you're eating it whole, so you don't have to remove the blood. The blood only becomes forbidden if the blood left its place. If you would squeeze the meat and pound it and get the blood moving around, now you have an Isser Dam within the blood, within the Isser Dam. That means for prohibition of blood within the meat. By the way, why do we salt all our meat? Because we usually cook it in chulent or something, so the blood's going to come out and then it's going to be usser. But if you're one of these barbarians who like to eat raw meat, so you have a heter here. So we're not so worried about these things.
What about
Yeah.
chicken liver?
Chicken liver?
That's what-
Yeah, so chicken liver is full of blood.
Right.
Technically speaking, we roast the chicken livers because there's too much blood. Just touching it makes blood come out, and people cook the chicken liver afterwards. In order to be able to cook anything in a pot, you have to remove the blood. You have to salt it, and the chiddush of liver is if you wish to cook the liver, so salting is not sufficient for a liver. You also have to roast the liver. Yeah, these are crazy things. It used to be you can't get this now. Your mothers used to salt meat at home. Now I remember I came to Israel. They used to have meat that was unsalted, still available, just in Supersol and Rami Levy, and the Rabbanut did away with that. You basically can't find it. In New York, you could find unsalted meat, but they don't sell it to you. Right in the back room at the kosher supermarket, that's where they do the salting, and I think it's easier. But it basically has removed us from our practical knowledge of the halacha. And the Brisa says, Tanya, Rashba Omer, Ein Horgin et HaMacholet b'Shabbat, Divrei Beit Shammai. Beit Shammai says, don't kill the ma'acholet. Ma'acholet means the blood-sucking parasite. Sometimes it means bedbug. Sometimes it means fleas. Sometimes it means lice. And sometimes it means mosquitoes. That's the point. It's a general word, yeah.
I think we'll start next week on Tuesday.
Yeah.
With this whole subject.
Okay, fine. So Beit Shammai didn't want to kill these bugs. Thank you all for joining. And we'll sign off here. And we'll end the stream. God,
Figure out a way what's
Hold on.
going on for Tuesday.
about Tuesday, if once again they don't let me log in, remember I have Rabbi Nadel's information, but they're sending a thing that's saying, oh, we don't like your computer. So they're giving him a one-time code. If he's incommunicado at that hour when I try to log in, we'll have to use this method also, or some other thing.
So how many people showed up? 4?
Over the course, but now we only have 2. So sign off now. Yeah. It could be those people.